Hi everyone and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm making a beautiful seeded sourdough bread with spelt flour. It's packed with seeds inside, has a nice crunchy crust, and the spelt flour gives it a really nice nutty flavor. This bread feels a little more special than a basic sourdough loaf, but the process is still very simple. There are just a couple of extra steps and I will show you exactly how I make it from start to finish. And before we begin, if you find this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. It really helps support my channel and allows me to keep creating more recipes for you. And of course, a huge thank you to my sponsors for supporting my work and making these videos possible. Now let's get started. The night before baking, we need to do two things: prepare our seed mixture and feed the sourdough starter. In a small bowl, combine 25 grams of sunflower seeds, 25 grams of pumpkin seeds, and 25 grams of flax seeds. Pour 75 grams of boiling water over everything and give it a quick stir. Cover the bowl and leave it at room temperature until tomorrow. Now let's feed the sourdough starter. In a clean jar, combine 20 grams of starter, 50 grams of water, and 50 grams of flour. Mix everything well. Cover the jar and place it in a warm spot at around 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Let it rise until it has doubled in size and looks nice and bubbly. For me, it usually takes about 8 hours. The next morning, your starter should be nice and active and the soaked mixture is ready to use. In a large bowl, add 360 grams of water, then add the soaked mixture from the night before along with any water left in the bowl and give it a quick stir. Next, add 100 grams of active sourdough starter and 30 grams of honey. Mix everything together until the starter and honey are mostly dissolved. Now add 150 grams of spelt flour and mix it in. Then add 350 grams of bread flour, 10 grams of kosher salt and mix again until there are no dry spots of flour left. I like to use a Danish whisk for this because the dough is quite sticky at this stage and it makes mixing much easier. Once everything is well combined, cover the bowl and let the dough rest for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, it's time for the first set of stretch and folds. I usually do about 3 or 4 sets in total to help strengthen the dough. Wet your hands slightly so the dough doesn't stick. Then grab one side of the dough, gently stretch it up and fold it over toward the center. Turn the bowl and repeat this all the way around. At this point, the dough will still feel pretty sticky, especially because of the spelt flour, and that's completely normal. Once you finish the first set, cover the bowl and let it rest for another 30 minutes. At this point, I also move the dough to a warm spot at around 80 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm using my smart oven for this. After another 30 minutes, come back to the dough and repeat the same stretch and fold. You will notice that with each set, the dough starts to feel smoother, stronger, and a little easier to handle. Wet your hands again, grab one side of the dough, gently stretch it up, and fold it over toward the center. Turn the bowl and repeat the same thing all the way around. Then cover the bowl and let it rest for another 30 minutes. After another 30 minutes, I'm doing the third set of stretch and folds. By now you should notice a big difference in the dough. It should feel much smoother, stronger, and hold its shape better. If the dough still feels a little loose, you can do one more set after another 30 minutes rest. Otherwise, cover it and let it continue fermenting in a warm spot. I'm still keeping mine at around 80 degrees Fahrenheit. From here, bulk fermentation usually takes around 2 to 3 hours, but don't rely only on the time. Look at the dough. It should become noticeably puffier and you should start seeing bubbles on the surface. Mine was ready after about 2 hours. Once the dough is nicely puffed up, it's ready to shape. Lightly flour the surface of the dough, then carefully turn it out onto your work surface. At this point, it should release from the bowl pretty easily without sticking too much. Try not to press out too much of the air. Now let's pre-shape it into a loose round. Sprinkle the dough with a little more flour, then bring all of the edges toward the center to create a ball. Flip it over, sprinkle the top with a little more flour, and gently tighten the dough by scooping it toward you with your palms. Once it's shaped, cover it and let it rest on the counter for about 10 minutes before the final shaping. Okay, now the dough has relaxed a little and we can do the final shape. First, get your bonneton ready. I'm not adding any flour to it because we are going to coat the outside of the bread with seeds. Lightly flour the top of the dough, flip it over and gently stretch it out just a little. Fold the sides toward the center, almost like folding a letter. And then roll the dough up tightly to creating some tension. Pinch the sides together if needed. Sprinkle with a little more flour and gently even out the shape of the loaf. Now let's add the seeds to the outside. I'm using a simple mixture of sunflower, pumpkin and flax seeds spread out on a plate. Lightly spray the surface of the dough with water. I'm using a spray bottle for this. If there is too much water, just gently blot off the excess with a paper towel. Then roll the loaf in the seeds mixture, pressing very gently so the seeds stick well to the surface. Place the loaf into your bonneton, with the seed side facing down and the seam facing up. Now I like to tighten the loaf one last time by bringing the edges toward the center and gently pinching them together. This creates a little more tension before the final proof. Sprinkle the top with a little flour and now it's ready for the refrigerator. I leave it uncovered and cool proof it for at least 6 hours. After the cold proof, the bread is ready to bake. Start by preheating the oven to 500 degrees Fahrenheit with the Dutch oven inside. When everything is ready, take the dough straight from the refrigerator. Place a piece of parchment paper on a cutting board. Then carefully flip the loaf out of the bonneton so the seated side is facing up. Now it's time to score the bread. Since the surface is covered with seeds, I definitely recommend using a fresh, sharp blade. Make one confident cut along the top of the loaf. Then go back and make a second, more shallow cut just underneath the first one. This helps create that nice ear and the bread expands in the oven. Carefully remove the hot Dutch oven from the oven and place the bread inside. You can also add 1 or 2 ice cubes if you want a little extra steam for the crust. Cover with the lid and bake for 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, remove the lid, reduce the oven temperature to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, and continue baking uncovered for another 15 to 20 minutes, or until the crust is a nice deep golden brown. At this point, just keep an eye on the color, because every oven is a little different. The internal temperature of the bread should be around 205 degrees Fahrenheit when it's fully baked. You can also tap the bottom of the loaf. It should sound hollow. Once it's done, carefully remove the bread from the Dutch oven and transfer it to a cooling rack. And I know it's tempting to cut into it right away, but let it cool for at least 45 minutes to an hour before slicing. This gives the inside time to finish setting and helps prevent the crumb from becoming gummy. And that's it, your seeded sourdough bread is ready. I really love the flavor of this bread. It's perfect with a little butter for sandwiches or simply toasted for breakfast. I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and if you try it, let me know how it turns out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.